Good evening, race fans. Welcome back. We are here once again for the Alliance Sim Racing V8 Supercars series, and we welcome you tonight for round 6 to Okayama International Circuit in Japan for what will be another fantastic evening of racing, I am sure. Tonight, we hit Okayama Circuit, originally opened in 1990 as TI Circuit Aida, renamed in 2005, and the site of just a host of various motorsport disciplines, Formula One along the years. It's a track that's steeped in history, and it really will be tonight an absolute test of the racecraft of these V8 drivers as they make their way around the almost 3.7 kilometre circuit. We've got a real mix of hairpins, of tight corners, of sweeping bends, along with a couple of decent-sized straights that will test not only the ability of the brakes on these cars this evening, but also the mettle of these drivers as they look for an opportunity to overtake under those sort of conditions. It's going to be a fantastic night. I'm so glad you've joined us. My name is Jared Cole, and on behalf of everyone here at Simple Racing Broadcast, it is an absolute pleasure to be back with you once again for another great night of racing. And I'm joined, of course, by my delightful co-commentator, Mr. Josh Harris. Josh, how are you tonight?
Good evening, Jared. Thank you for having me along once again. I am fantastic. Who doesn't love Tuesday nights where we get to sit back and watch some of the very best V8 supercar drivers in the iRacing world? And what a wonderful place to be. Across to our friends in Asia. This is a challenging track. I've raced here a couple of times, and you look at the track map and you think, there's some open flowing corners and some tight twisty ones, but the actual racing really does open your eyes here. It's not how you would expect it to be, and one thing that catches you out is there is a surprising amount of elevation change here. So as you said, Jared, there is going to be some challenges tonight for our drivers, and I'm sure that they'll rise to the occasion and provide us with some fantastic racing that we are used to seeing from these guys and girls.
Undoubtedly, and of course with that challenge comes opportunity. This is probably one of the circuits that I have been most excited to see these guys battle it out on, because it's been a little while since we've really been to a track that presents so many amazing passing opportunities, from the very imaginatively named first corner right through to the very imaginatively named last corner. Yes, they are actually called that. Corner 1, first corner, turn 11, last corner. There's a few more in between that perhaps are a little more imaginative, but we'll go through that in a moment. It is a track that will actually present a number of passing opportunities for these supercars, and we know they're hard to come by in these cars ordinarily, but with the amount of tight turns particularly, there's so much opportunity for you to pounce on the mistake of a driver in front, or even to find a slightly better line here tonight. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think we'll see a lot of action. I'm hoping we see some tight but close and clean racing. And all in all, looking like another great night of racing. Okayama, one of my favourites. Josh, in terms of the race format this evening, 15 laps again for race 1. Race 2, we're doing 32 laps with 2 compulsory stops to be taken at the driver's choice of time in race 2. Again, this week we're expecting to see the pit strategy really play its part, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely we are. I find it really interesting, Jared. We've got to go 15 laps in the first race, and then 2 stops over 32 laps in the second. So really, 3 10-lap stints. Definitely lends itself to more flat-out racing, and of course, if there was an opportunity via a safety car, or maybe you find yourself out of position, very much throws the strategy wide open to make an early pit stop and then only need to run 2 15-lap stints, which is very similar in length to race 1. So these drivers are all going to have a bit of an understanding straight away from the way that their car feels at the end of race 1, and they're going to know immediately whether they have the ability to make that early stop in race 2, or whether it's going to be better to really try and break that down into 10-lap stints and go absolutely flat out. Me personally, selfishly, I just want to see the guys break it up nice and even and race absolutely as fast as they possibly can over 3 even stints. But we will see what happens. I think the chance of safety car this week is probably lower than normal, Jared. It's a nice open track, and we don't have anywhere near the risk that we saw last week at Belle Isle, that's for sure. But still, these cars and lots of cars on track, anything can happen.
Absolutely they can. And before we get into qualifying, let's take a look at the championship standings here in round 6. Jason Spriggs retains his top spot, barely ahead of Matt Vanderkraan. Then Anthony Visma continues in P3. A little further back, Damien Can. So Accelerate Sim Racing really dominating the standings this season. Team AJR represented with Dean Logsdale in P5. Then Stephen Varga, the first of the Quantum Racing entries. And from there, we've got Gary Buckland, Stephen Tonkin, Troy Sipple, and Jim Caparonis rounding out the top 10. Starting to see a bit more of a gap opening up here in the standings as the weeks roll by, and time is ticking down for drivers to make a play for one of those end of the season podium spots. Really, it's still anyone's game at this point. Spriggs, Vanderkraan, Anthony Visma out in front, but not as many points separating them as they'd probably feel comfortable with. Let's see what tonight brings as we wait for the drivers to finish up their warm-ups, and we will get into some qualifying action. We'll take you on a bit of a journey around this track, so you do get a chance to see it from a driver's perspective, because it is, if you're not familiar with it, a spectacular track to look at, nestled in the hills. It's a beautiful spot. Josh, your experience with this track, how much of racing have you done here, and what have you raced it in, I suppose is the other question.
Yeah, this is the first track that we've been to, Jared, that I haven't had the opportunity to drive in a supercar. So, selfishly, spent the weekend down at Bathurst watching the 12-hour as opposed to in my sim, getting myself sorted for tonight. But I have raced here in everything from a GT3 car all the way through to a Legends car, which, for those of you who may not know in Australia, think of an Aussie racing car. So very, very small, very nimble. It is a fun track. It is super technical, and it definitely, as you said, Jared, lends itself to some fantastic racing. The shot that we're showing there, you can see the size of the hill in between the first couple of corners in the back straight. There is a significant rise coming out of turn 4, which is Atwood Curve, and is probably one of the very best opportunities for passing, getting good drive out of turn 4 all the way down towards the turn 5 hairpin that we can see on screen there, and then making that stick through turn 5 and 6 with more opportunities again at the end of the track. But really, what we see, as you said, Jared, is a track that just lends itself to a significant amount of passing opportunities. And we can see here we've picked up Phil Marsh, and we are out the back of the track. That's turn 7 there, Piper, and really we're entrenched in the incredibly technical second half of this track, which has no less than 3 hairpins in the space of 4 or 5 corners, and then what looks to be a reasonably simple turn 10, 11 to get back onto the main straight is actually incredibly technical. There's a bit of a challenge at 10 to take just the right amount of track, not exceed track limits, but also not to give up any time. And then through the last corner, down a nice long straight into first corner, Jared. Yeah, it really lends itself, when you look at it, to some big moves and trying to make some passes under brakes. But of course, as you'll see here, very fast turn 2. This is Williams, and really does not lend itself to passing through turn 1, but fantastic opportunity here to get out of 2 through the Moss S, which is a very fun piece of track, and then into that turn 4 Atwood curve that I talked about. It's an incredibly long right-hander and climbs on the exit. Very easy to destroy rear tyres through there, and it's all about getting drive for the very long rear straight, which pulls up into the incredibly thoughtfully named turn 5, which is hairpin of all things. And I think that tonight is where we'll really see cars fanning out wide and ensuring an incredible spectacle of passing opportunity.
Don't forget, of course, as you come through turn 6 and 7, just back there, Revolver and Piper. Coming out of Revolver particularly, you've got to be so careful on that exit as you do try and cut over the track limits without going too far, because you put a wheel wrong there and you're off in the dirt and often sideways into Piper. Then, of course, Redman and Hobbs, the two more hairpins, and then we get back around again to turns 10 and 11, and that is a lap on board with Philip Marsh this evening. Look, don't take anything away from this. It is a really tough track at the best of times, and then you're doing it here in V8 Supercars, the Gen 3 Supercars, which are not exactly known for being easy to get away from slow speed corners. And we're talking about a track with 3 hairpins and a couple more tight ones on top of that. It's a big ask for these drivers, really, isn't it?
It is a big ask, and I think that the thing that comes to mind with that, Jared, is all around tyre management. As you said, hard to get these cars up and running in this sort of on these slow corners, and outward curve is another one that, as I said before, is really going to chew tyres. So I think that it's a fantastic battle coming tonight, not only between all of the drivers, but also, no doubt, the drivers and their own machines trying to make their tyres last for 15 long laps around here.
Yeah, it is going to be a very, very big ask, and as you said earlier, it's going to be so easy for these guys to really cook their tyres, particularly with so much low-speed work to be done. And they're going to have to be very, very careful to just keep it all within temp and take it easy. There's a couple of tricky spots here. So we spoke earlier about coming through turn 6 Revolver. Outward curve. I was watching the practice session last night and again earlier today, and I'm really actually fascinated by the difference in how these drivers are taking that increasing radius curve, because it is really, technically I think you'd call it one turn, but it's got a really, really tight entry, and some of these drivers are taking it as a single curve, but it's definitely some of the drivers treating it as a double apex, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of difference in the result, but it might make for some very, very interesting opportunities for overtakes tonight.
I think it'll also make a big difference on tyre wear, Jared. It's always been a thing that our real life counterparts talk about with managing tyre wear and trying to get the load off of an individual tyre. So by double apexing that outward curve, you are able to slow the car up slightly more, really make a tighter radius in between the two apexes, and then get the load back across both tyres. If you do hold a tighter line and try and drive through that corner, whilst it may be quite fast in the middle of the turn, and not present a huge difference in peak lap speed, what I think that you may find is that over the course of the race, that your left rear tyre really starts to hurt from being loaded for so long every lap.
Yeah, it's a lot to ask for a poor little tyre, isn't it? You've got to
it is
a little bit.
Unfortunately, unless these guys and girls have had the opportunity to do some long race runs, they are only going to find out by doing it. So I certainly know that the other thing that can drive it sometimes is how comfortable you feel. Some of these drivers may not be comfortable by running that double apex line and might really need to, tolerate the additional wear in order to be able to extract speed out of the car.
Absolutely. There's a lot to think about here. Okayama is, again, a deceptively simple track in terms of how it looks on paper versus how it actually races. It's just not the same thing at all. So these drivers will have to have their wits about them tonight. Daniel Sheriffs and Peter Sutler, the last couple of drivers out on track, putting in at times at the moment. And we'll wait and see how it all falls. But you can see, as always, a very, very tight group towards the top of the order. In fact, tonight we have, let's call it the top 15, all within 1 second of Matt Vanderkran's current pole position lap. Spriggs, Thomas, Stewart, Logsdale all well in touch up top. So it's going to be a very, very tight race across both of these races this evening. Again, no reverse grids tonight, so positioning in race 1 across these 15 laps is going to be super important for all of these drivers.
Yeah, it is going to be super important. And I think the other thing to note, those names that you threw out from the top of our list, sure enough, they are the names that we tend to see at the top of our championship table. So no one is getting away with this easily, I wouldn't say, Jared. And I think that tonight's going to be another fantastic night of people fighting for whatever championship points they can get their hands on.
Absolutely. So, look, as always, it'll be an interesting one to watch. I think the first race really does set the tone, doesn't it, for the second? And I know that you're feeling pretty confident about the safety car situation tonight. I actually think this could be one of those circuits where, you know, for the first time in a while, the drivers have actually got some really good overtaking opportunities at a number of corners here. Really nice wide exits to some of these turns through turn one, and then of course upward curve will throw some things up, a couple of hairpins in there as well. I'm wondering if maybe we might actually see these drivers throwing it in there a little bit more than we have previously to take advantage of that and really try and maximise the points on offer tonight. We're used to very clean racing from this group of drivers, and I don't expect it'll be too much different tonight, but all the same, I'm not as convinced as you are, clearly.
All I want to jump in and point out is that I suggested that I think that this is a track of low safety car chance. I certainly do not believe that this is a track of low carnage. We are very lucky, though, to have
just good runoffs, basically.
nice big sand traps and plenty of runoff. I think that the chance of major contact with walls and significant damage in that way is low. But I think you've hit the nail on the head. Lots of passing opportunities. Maybe some drivers that need to make up some points because they feel that they're running out of opportunities, and maybe, you know, as our mate Biggles likes to say, maybe a bit of door banging. And if there is going to be a track that you feel comfortable to, you know, dive up the inside of someone and put on a Hail Mary move, this is potentially a good one for it, because realistically, the worst of the outcomes is probably going to be someone tripping through the sand and rejoining the track with you.
I suspect so. Let's take a look at how they're lining up here for race 1 in round 6 here at Okayama. The Alliance Sim Racing V8 Supercars series continues with Matt Vanderkraan on pole. Very familiar for him to be up front at the start of one of these races, alongside Jason Spriggs, who's also in the hunt for the top spot in the championship. Jeff Thomas and Michael Stewart on row 2 behind them. Then Dean Logsdale and Jim Caperonis, row 3. Jay McKnight and Damien Cairns sit on row 4, ahead of row 5 with Stephen Varga and Andrew Hoffman. Gary Buckland and Damon Fisher just missing out on the top 10 in the first race. Further back through the field, we have Steve Tonkin and Daniel Sheriffs ahead of James Hardy and Michael Power, then Rick Vigar and Todd Martin lining up alongside each other. Matthew Stoyles and Dane Nothdurft next to each other ahead of Scott Perrins and Nick Heusler. Peter Sattler and Peter Latham in 23rd and 24th this evening. Then Troy Sipple, Peter Baxter, Joseph Granshaw and Rob Baxter, Michael Hayes and John Van Ree round out the 30, Philip Marsh and Darren Walden ahead of Anita Buckland and Dave Baldock, then Michael Schroeder and Lucas Burt, with Dylan Sipple rounding out the 37 for this evening. Tim Nicol, your safety car driver, on track tonight. And we have a very, very full field indeed tonight, Josh.
We do. It's amazing to see the fact that these guys and girls continue to turn up week in, week out. Is amazing. And as we see the chat, Jared, Dave Baldock has jumped in, and John Van Ree reckons that he's got this one in the bag. Look, I don't want to. I was going to say I don't want to diss on anyone, but if he can run through from 30th. I just want to know, Dave, do you mean that he's got the round in the bag or this race? Because if he can run through from 30th to 1st in this first 15-lap race, I will be incredibly impressed. But I certainly hope that we get to see it.
Absolutely. Have a look at this lineup of cars as we await the starters' orders coming very, very soon. There's a lot of cars here on track tonight.
There is, but it's a bit different to last week at Belle Isle, isn't it, Jared, where we saw them stretch around the corner. A beautiful long front straight here, and the opportunity for everyone to try and get off the line nice and cleanly and make some moves into turn 1.
Absolutely. A bit of support out there for Phil Marsh as well. So some Team AJR love, always good to see. Tonight they're going to have to do some work. PJM Racing, rather, starting back in 31st. So he's back there with John Van Ree. What do you reckon of Van Ree Marsh 1-2? Is that what's coming here?
Apparently, I don't want to predict things, but punters usually know best. So let's see. Let's get on board and watch them carve through the field and come to the front.
Not so much to ask. We should be just about to get underway here, folks. Hope you're enjoying this. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show this evening. We're waiting on the last of the gridding here as we see just a couple of drivers getting themselves sorted. Waiting on Nick Heusler now as we just wait on race control, being happy to let these guys get underway. At this moment, just enjoying a bit of heat soak into those engines. Probably not ideal. Thankfully, I don't think iRacing models that, but feel free to correct me if I'm off the mark there. Geez, that'd suck, wouldn't it? Can you imagine having to actually think about when you start your engine to avoid that stuff? That'd add a whole other level of complexity to this sim racing experience.
Who knows what they'll do in the future, Jared? They are very frequently all about realism and simulation, so it might be something interesting like that in the future. But for now, it's just about managing your fuel burn if you think that you are particularly tight to make it to the end.
Absolutely. Here we go. Runner starters, all the lights are coming up. Revs coming up across the grid. We are underway, and a great start for everyone except Jamie McKnight, who bogs down just a little off the line, which allows, of course, a bit of a jump from Stephen Varga there. We come down to first corner, and so far so good. Everyone getting underway relatively cleanly.
Just look at these guys, 3 and 4 wide through turn 2. It's incredible to see. And Jared, when I mentioned that a nice big front straight meant that they had the opportunity to make some moves into turn 1, I'm not sure that I expected to see cars 5 and 6 wide on the way through to turn 1. And if you think that these guys are just going to settle into a rhythm and let it go, you may have been surprised then to see one of the Quantum cars, I think it was, 2 wheels in the dirt trying to make moves. These guys know that lap 1, cold tyres, this is the time to make some quick and easy gains, as we see them already all the way down to hairpin corner, halfway through this first lap so quickly, and still cars 2 wide battling to get into that train. But we do start to see that form up now as we head into this very technical back end of the section.
Yeah, it starts to get a little bit tricky, and I guess that's what it's all about, is getting that good start so you don't find yourself battling on lap 1 through this section. A great view of both the hairpins back to back. Have a look at this field spreading out, and these guys, they must be feeling almost set free here as they no longer have the street circuit to deal with. Now that's Damon Fisher into the wall there. Team AJR's Damon Fisher has been spun around. Thankfully he's gotten that car moving again. But not what he would have hoped for. And we've had another incident as John Van Ree and Philip Marsh, would you believe we've put the commentator's curse on them? Van Ree and Marsh have come together, and they've ended up crashing in the back of this field.
Jared, I think we can firmly lay blame for that one in the comment section. Those guys unfortunately coming together on lap 1, but as we heard from the punters, they've got this one in the bag, so just a little bit more of a challenge, but they will get back about racing and work as fast as they can to move their way back through the pack. Todd Martin apparently had an issue that too. We've got Todd Martin down 18 positions and Damon Fisher down 22, so a couple of the guys all the way towards the back that have had a challenging lap, but if we're looking at the guys going backwards, the guys making moves forward, Jared, Dylan Sipple up 14 spots in 1 lap, so very interesting to keep an eye on him over the rest of the race and see what he can do. And obviously a couple of people taking our comments that there's no walls so you can potentially run wide to heart, because the amount of white pebble that is being thrown around this track at the moment is pretty considerable.
There's a bit of debris already, to say the least, as we see Jamie McKnight getting underway. Had a pretty average start by his standards. Damien Cairns, though, has just locked onto the back of him there and is towing Stephen Varga around as well. So, look, already you're saying the gaps start to open up out in front. Vanderkraan, it's not huge, but out to a second and then another further second back from Spriggs to Logsdale. But this is where the battle pack is right now. It's all here behind Dean Logsdale, who's currently carrying the Team AJR torch after Damon Fisher's earlier issue. 15 laps is going to go fast here at Okayama.
Yeah, it is. It's such an action-packed lap. Other than the run in between Atwood Curve and Hairpin, there's just so much going on. You basically don't get a chance to breathe. So we are going to be looking here, there, and everywhere, and it's going to go really quickly. But as you said, Dean Logsdale starting to hold up some people behind him, and Mr. Thomas on the move straight away. So he has
coming through.
Sorry, that is Stuart. My apologies. And he's made easy work of Dean there, and that key passing opportunity into Hairpin. Big long run after Atwood's Curve, and just being able to get on the brakes and pull it up and get that inside line. The interesting thing to now see will be whether Stuart can make a run, and whether Logsdale was holding him up, or whether these guys are pretty evenly matched, and maybe he can't break free of the train now that he's in clear air.
Have a look at Jeff Thomas, though, all over the back of Logsdale as well. So he's looking to follow Stuart through. I'm wondering if he might actually have a bit of pace on him here that he wants to try and extend and make sure he stays in touch with those leaders. As we make our way down the main straight again, it's a nice little train as always. You love to see it. Matt Vanderkrant at 132 or 19. We saw them dipping into 31s earlier, so as these tyres come up to temp, they've probably only got another couple of laps to really try and set that kind of pace before the tyres start to soften off a little. But all in all, look very clean, very close racing right throughout the pack. Let's take a look a little further back as we see, I think it's James Hardy who's heading this pack up. It's actually Tompkins, sorry, a little bit further out in front. But followed very closely, Hardy, Vigar, Sheriff, Stoyles, Power, Nick Heusler, Peter Sattler, all in amongst it here. The battle for 12th. Again, a nice little train going on, as we see in the background. Daniel Sheriffs is looking for a way past Rick Vigar here, all over the back of him, and really just a very different set of names making their way up through the field here compared to what we're probably used to. Okayama really gelling with a few of these drivers.
It is the kind of track, Jared, that's going to see different people like it, and different people, maybe struggle more than usual. But I don't really mind who is where, as long as you see some really fantastic racing, and that's what we're seeing straight away. A number of battle packs forming up, and some opportunities for people to pass, and some nice free-flowing racing, which is exactly what we want to see. I think the important thing with this track, Jared, is that it is a genuine old school track, and from my perspective, I loved seeing tracks with grass and kiddie litter right up to the edge of the track. So a bit more space than they have had maybe last week, but definitely repercussions nonetheless. So some good hard racing coming up. Absolutely.
Let's go back and take a bit of a look at some of these earlier incidents as everyone sort of settles into the rhythm here. First of all, let's take a look at Damon Fisher, the first to run off track, and just in amongst traffic in the hairpin, bit of a nudge into the back of the 868 car there, of course, of it's escaped me now, Steve Varga, sorry, and just that was enough to put him off the track. And look at how many positions he loses. No real damage to the car, but yeah, just can't get going again as traffic flows through. We check back in on this battle with Jim Caperonis now feeling Jamie McKnight breathing down his neck. Logsdale's going to have to keep an eye on this, because really Caperonis is acting as a lovely little buffer for him at the moment, but McKnight, Cairns, Varga, all capable of making Dean Logsdale's day pretty miserable if they can catch up. Going to be able to put a lot of pressure on. Have a look at that gap though out in front. Vanderkrant, Spriggs, Stewart, Logsdale. The gap between them, really a second and a half plus, is what's starting to come into play here. So he's going to have to be thinking very carefully about whether he wants to get a move on just yet, or if he waits it out. And we're taking a look. John Van Ree and Philip Marsh coming together. So keep an eye on this. Van Ree gets loose, and unfortunately Philip Marsh nowhere to go, just T-bones the poor guy. And they end up stuck together for a moment while they sort it out and get underway again. Van Ree gets just a little extra nudge for his troubles.
Yeah, that's a pretty innocuous little incident, Jared. It's very easy trying to do the right thing and hanging out wide and just making that mistake in a part of the track that really has no grip. It's a shame to see those guys come together, but I think that they'll get their head down and really get back about racing. Hopefully only very minor damage on both of those cars and nothing that'll pull them up. As we do see Sipple going to make another move and another one of the Quantum cars wide, so a couple of positions in one there, and that's a fantastic move through Atwood curve and gives him the opportunity now to make the big long run down towards hairpin and really stretch the legs and stay on the inside and make sure that he manages to get that pass on Northdurf complete. Although, as we see it, Northdurf breaks late and does manage to hold it, and of course has the inside for the next corner. So a little bit of blinking issues, some connection issues there for Northdurf, which will really be putting Sipple off. It's very, very difficult to cleanly execute a pass when you're not 100% sure where the other car is. So Sipple, unfortunately, hasn't been able to get that one finished, but we will see him have another crack soon, I have no doubt.
Right behind that, Michael Schroeder making the move on Michael Hayes for 25th. So he's come through and he's starting to look for a move up through the field. But Dylan Sipple right now up 15. Michael Schroeder challenging for that, already up 10 so far. So starting right down to 35th. And he is fighting his way up through the pack at a rate of knots right now. The pack unchanged further up. We revisit this. Dean Logsdale still out in front. Caparonis he's maintaining well, you've got to say. He's really taking the pressure from Jamie McKnight and it doesn't look to be faltering at this stage. McKnight's going to have to really commit to get a pass done here. But it also doesn't look like Caparonis is losing a whole bunch of time to Logsdale either, so maybe happy to just stay in touch for a while. We're halfway through race 1 here tonight, 7 laps down, 15 total for the evening, so a little over halfway to go. But these guys settling into their rhythm nicely, just getting a feel for the track ahead of race 2, our 32 lap, longer distance race tonight. I was going to say epic, that's probably a bit of a stretch, isn't it?
Yeah, epic might be a bit of a stretch, but it is definitely longer, and I think that we just need to call out Jeff Thomas down in 11th, down 8 spots from the start. So Jeff had some fantastic pace in qualifying, but it appears that maybe his race car not quite as good as his race car not quite as good as his qualifying car, and really we see him. He's on the back of Hoffman, but he'll be hoping that he doesn't see any more cars end up on his rear bumper, because I do worry that he may be struggling just a little bit tonight in race trim, and maybe he won't be able to hold them at bay, Jared.
Yeah, it's certainly not going well for him so far, but look, you get caught up in a little bit of early chaos, and that can happen. It's a long, hard battle back once you lose that sort of number of positions, particularly when it comes to the supercars. Finding passes around this track, around any track really, in a supercar, really difficult. You then add into it the amount of debris you saw just there through Atwood. It makes things very, very tricky. But we see Thomas coming for the move up the inside of Hoffman. He's not quite going to get there, but he's going to put the pressure on. Hoffman stays wide. That's going to let Thomas through. And he walks through with 10th. Further back in the pack, Dylan Sipple, Dane Northdurf, Peter Latham all still at it. Sipple is looking for a way through. Northdurf, though, making the pass on Latham, or attempting to, has shut the door on Sipple at the same time. I don't know whether that was intentional, but if it was, that's some pretty impressive racecraft to both be attempting a pass and closing a door in front of you.
Northdurf appears to have found a breaking point and a line through hairpin, Jared, that does allow him to brake
we're
far
going
later.
wide.
People think that's a brave move. I'm not sure of the outcome there,
sure
and as we sort of expected, a move like that has seen a couple of cars come together. I won't make any speculation, Jared, on how that came about without seeing it, but a shame nonetheless.
Let's take another look. Latham on the inside. Dane Northdurf cuts across him, I think maybe just a little too sharply, and gets pinged. And Latham pulls up and lets Northdurf get away. Look, again, not the greatest view to try and decide that, but we've got plenty more racing to watch, so let's not spend too long wondering what could have been. Let's jump back up front as this battle continues. Caperonis still holding off McKnight, but McKnight with an opportunity here, really closing that gap to just 1/10. Does he make a move on the inside here? Caperonis not going defensive just at this stage. McKnight takes the big dive under brakes into hairpin, pushes Caperonis wide. Can Cairns come through as well? He has. Caperonis has gone very, very wide, in fact, and gives up all 3 spots. McKnight, Cairns and Varga all through in one corner. The pressure finally getting to be too much for Jim Caperonis.
A bit of a lesson there, Jared, in racing a supercar, and unfortunately for Caperonis, saw himself ending up wide by trying to hang around the outside with the passing car, and a little bit of hindsight, and maybe he would have been better to just tuck in behind Jamie McKnight as he came past. But alas, the damage is done, and he will continue on. And you know, let's look at the silver lining. 8th still isn't a bad spot to be, so he will be desperate to stay in front of Gary Buckland, and the good thing for him is he does have just a little bit of a gap, and he'll be looking to put his head down now and just make sure that he can settle back into a bit of a rhythm.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, these guys battling it out. Dean Logsdale just starting to open that gap further and further. 2.5, 3 seconds up the road now from Jamie McKnight, so it's going nicely for Team AJR. A couple of supporters. Tim Lawson's back with us. Good to have you again, Tim. G'day, Luke. It's always a pleasure to have some support out there. Take a look though at this battle just ahead. Michael Stewart has just been slowly chipping away at Jason Spriggs, and now is all over his rear bumper. So we've actually got a battle on our hands second. Not so long ago, this is about a 1.5, 2 seconds gap. So Stewart's certainly pushing hard here. Lap 10. And we've got some race control info. Car 64, a 5-point post-race penalty for the incident with car 17. So that is car number 64, which is Joseph Granshaw coming together with Troy Sipple earlier. So copying the post-race penalty there. Look, I think when we think about the way these penalties are applied, and I think we were speaking about this last week, weren't we? That the post-race penalty is sometimes the better choice, particularly a track like this where it is a relatively short lap and fairly fast. A drive-through is actually a pretty severe sort of penalty to end up with. So I don't know about you, but I'd rather take the post-race.
As a driver, I would definitely prefer to take the post race. Sometimes, as a league admin in a different league and needing to manage all of those points, I just wish that more people would be handed drive-throughs. But no, I think that the punishment has to fit the crime, Jared. There's no point. We can't just see every single person getting a drive-through, because then there's no incentive for trying your best to pull out of a bad situation or things like that. If a small innocuous thing is just a drive-through, well, those small innocuous things become bigger things very quickly. But as you said, the battle for second, before you were mentioning that Stewart has caught up onto the back of Spriggs, but now we see Spriggs up on the back of Van der Kraan. So I'm not 100% sure that Van der Kraan hasn't made a mistake, but no matter what, we definitely see a battle brewing for first, second and third. And I can say, Jared, Van der Kraan's last lap of 34.8, 2.7 seconds off his best time. There must have been a mistake of some sort, and we'll see now whether he can drive away again. But how exciting to be 2/3 of the way through this race, and our 3 podium position holders so close to each other.
It's not something we're used to seeing. That there tends to be a little bit more of a gap out in front, but maybe Spriggs has just seen Stewart in the rear view and decided that he needs to get a bit of a wriggle on here and start to catch up to Van der Kraan, make sure that he doesn't find himself down in P3 without a fight. Van der Kraan, though, just maintaining that 7/10 gap back to Spriggs, and Stewart quite comfortable with a second between himself and Spriggs ahead. The gap's further back. Dean Logsdale extending out to almost 3 seconds. You can see him here just coming through Atwood with, he's still within range. You can still see the top 3 up ahead, and in the rear view you can see Jay McKnight just coming through a little bit further back, and certainly breathing room there for Dean Logsdale from Team AJR.
Yeah, Jared, it's really interesting looking at the timing with, Vanderkran doing a 33.4 on the last lap. But then if we drop back to Logsdale, 33.2, a 33.3 for Jamie McKnight, a 33.3 for Cairns, a 33.2 for Varga. These guys are lapping at almost identical race pace, and I think that would be a combination of not only how incredibly good these guys are in these cars, but also the tyre condition and the need to manage it. So these guys have definitely settled into a rhythm, and it's proving to be very hard to rein any gaps in. So, Tim Lawson hanging out in the chat telling us that Dean's just sitting there waiting for the two guys in front to come back to him.
Is that how it works in racing?
I appreciate, apparently. Certainly, while I appreciate what he's saying, and Dean Logsdale's in a fantastic position, there is no doubt that it's proving tonight to be incredibly hard to rein guys back in when they do run away. And there's no doubt that the cars that sat behind Caparonis for a while are being held up ever so slightly. But certainly not to the point that they have just driven off into the sunset and caught the cars in front. So it's going to be interesting to see how they manage that over these last couple of laps, and whether they can A, catch up, and B, put a move on, because to your point earlier tonight, Jared, lots of moves being made, but probably far less passes being executed than we might have expected. A lot of guys that have the ability to catch up and put a move on, but there's a big difference it's proving between putting a move on and getting a move finished.
Absolutely. It's a tricky track, like all of them are in the supercars, mind you, but have a look at the amount of debris out of Atwood. That's actually going to be impacting in a big way these drivers trying to set up for a passing move into turn 5 hairpin. We see, Jamie McKnight has just made it through ahead of that and still holding off Damien Cairns. If you're struggling to get the drive down out of Atwood, though, it really can impact you for that long straight. You need everything right out of the corner to stay in front, and certainly if you're looking to overtake, you need to get the better drive out of the corner to get yourself alongside by the end of that straight. With the amount of debris on the track there, that's got to be causing some difficulties for some of these drivers.
Yeah, it would be, Jared. There's no doubt about that, but we also see debris the whole way across the track. So it's going to be affecting everybody to a similar amount. So there's no doubt that it would be challenging for them. But thankfully we don't see one line that is particularly worse than another, except for right out near the outside. But you'll just want to hope, no matter what, that you're not out there. And just throwing back ever so slightly to something that popped up and is back on screen now, car 420 Dane Nofdurft unfortunately picking up a drive-through penalty for an incident with Scotty Perrins in car 888. So an unfortunate way to finish this race for Dane, with not many laps to go back out and make up any time. We do start to see Jamie McKnight's car is getting very, very squirrely in the back end.
That's the contact there with Perrins, so just up the inside, and unfortunately that's cost Perrins quite a few spots as he waits for traffic to clear it. So yeah, that will do it.
That will, and it was a tough one to redress with those cars behind. So Dane's continued off up the road and unfortunately got a penalty for it. As we see Matt Vanderkran start his last lap with Spriggs and Stewart still tucked in behind. I'm not sure that we'll see many big moves made. These guys at the very end of their tyre life, and hopefully they are thinking about their start for the next race. But selfishly, I'd love to see something happen.
You just want to see someone send it, don't you?
I love a little bit of drama, a little bit of carnage, but the one that I'm interested to see as we finish off this race is this battle here, Jared. Jamie McKnight, as I said just before we cut to that last replay, Jamie McKnight's car is moving around a lot. There's no doubt in my mind that he has spent all of his allocation of tyres, and he now desperately needs to get this car to the finish line. He'll be doing everything he can to make that the single widest Chevy Camaro in all of the land, and he will be counting down every single corner as we see him again out of hairpin, getting on the throttle and really moving that car around. So maybe at the start of the race, Jared, he was really spending up some of those tyres to make moves, and it's currently got him in fifth, but it's going to be a big challenge from here to hold Cairns and Varga off. We'll see whether he can get it done.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect there's too much left in it here. Cairns might make a last-ditch effort, but it would be a big ask and would need a big mistake as we see Van der Kraan coming across the line for the win in race number 1. Spriggs and Stewart will finish in second and third. Dean Logsdale in fourth, and Joe McKnight holds them off. Damien Cairns doing everything he can, but just couldn't get there in the end. An awesome battle back and forth between these three. But our race winner for race 1 here, Matt Van der Kraan, a fantastic finish for him. And I have no doubt that he'll be very, very happy indeed with that one.
Yeah, absolutely, especially with a mistake of some sort in the middle that brought second and third back to him, or up to him. I've got no doubt that he's going to be breathing a sigh of relief, and we just start to see the cars a bit further back crossing the line. Lots and lots of cars, all nose to tail here. This track tonight, this racing has produced some fantastic close racing, but no doubt these guys are really working hard to get these cars to the finish line.
Absolutely. Now, Dane Northturft, I'm not actually sure if he's ended up back there because he served his drive-through on the last lap, or if he's actually missed the drive-through because of when that was issued. But I would say that he has served that one already. So just barely managing to hold him off there is Dave Baldock in the end. So all things considered, a pretty reasonable outcome, you'd have to say.
Yeah, although according to my screen, Dave Northturft did not visit the pit lane, so it'll be interesting to see whether he did miss that penalty and what comes of that. But good racing to the end, no matter what.
Absolutely. We just wait for the final results to come through now, and we should be able to share those in just a moment. So our results from Heat 1 look something a little bit like this as we bring our Race 1 winner into the booth. Matt Van der Kraan, welcome back to the commentary booth. Great to see you out in front, and a fantastic win for you in Race 1.
Evening, boys. Yeah, nice to be here. It's a bit harder than I wanted it to be. I had an inexplicable the bottom end flicked out of me in between turn 9 and 10, and yeah, the boys got a bit closer than I would have liked.
Yeah, we missed seeing that, but Josh Harris, as always, absolutely on it and picked up very, very quickly. Something must have gone wrong there because Van der Kraan's dropped right back. Sure enough, Spriggs and Stewart, they didn't make it easy for you at all tonight, did they?
No, mate, they really do. They're two quick drivers, so now I've got to be on my A game to stay ahead of them for sure.
Yeah, any particular standouts for you tonight? We were commenting a couple of times, the upward curve absolutely covered in debris tonight. How was that impacting your run down that back straight?
It was probably the first time I came around, it was at its worst, and I tiptoed a little bit. But apart from that, the track wasn't too bad. It was relatively clean. It was good.
Yeah, good to see, mate. Look, not a lot else for you. All in all, a very, very clean first race, bar obviously that one little issue that set you back perhaps a little more than you'd like. I've got to ask, race 2 compulsory stops. You're out in front again. I think we had the same conversation last week that you were going to try and extend out in front and hang out for a little bit rather than taking your lap 1 pit. Sort of what you're looking at again this week. Are we going to see something a little bit different, or is this a bit of a secret formula tonight?
Nah, no secrets. What I will remember, you can pit on lap 1 if there's a safety car. So that'll be a bonus if I actually remember to do that, because that destroyed me last week. Mate, if I'm out in front and there's no safety cars, I'm going. As soon as there's a safety car, I'll be in.
Yeah, good to hear. Well, Matt Van der Kraan, well done. First race in the bag. Only 32 more laps and a couple of pit stops between you and taking out the entire evening. So best of luck to you. We'll let you go and start to get ready for that one, hey?
Yeah, cheers, mate. Hey, just a quick one. Last week I gave a shout out to Chad and Rick's mum, who watches every week. My dad watches every week, so a quick shout out to Dad, Frank Van der Kraan. Thanks for watching, old fella.
Always good to have that support, and a massive shout out to all of the Vanderkraan family, who I'm sure enjoy seeing you come and have a chat to us pretty regularly, mate.
Hope to talk to you soon, boys. Cheers.
Fingers crossed. Cheers, Matt. Race 1 done and dusted. Matt Vanderkraan, your winner. And we go back through the listings there. Jason Spriggs ahead of Michael Stewart, then Dean Logsdale in 4th. Jamie McKnight ahead of Damien Cairns. Stephen Varga, Jim Caperonis, Gary Buckland and Jeff Thomas rounding out your 10. Then Andrew Hoffman, Steve Tonkin, James Hardy, Daniel Sheriffs ahead of Rick Viggar, Peter Sattler, Michael Power and Nick Heusler in 18th. We take a look a little further back through the field. Peter Baxter in 19th ahead of Matthew Stoyles, with Dylan Sipple. Look, some big moves in that race for Dylan, up into 21st, so not up the front end, but certainly impressive all the same. Michael Schroeder, much the same as well, making a huge number of moves up from starting in 35th. So good to see those guys making their way up. Possibility they can do some more in this race, but it's going to be a bit of a harder battle at the front end of that field, I am sure. Michael Hayes, Peter Latham and Troy Sipple just behind them, then Damon Fisher, Scott Perrins, Darren Walden and Todd Martin ahead of Joseph Granshaw and Rob Baxter. Anita Buckland, Dave Baldock, Dane Nothdurft, Philip Marsh and John Van Ree rounding out your 36, and just a little nudge forward for Lucas Burt, finishing just one lap off the pace. So a very, very clean set of racing, evidenced by almost all our drivers, all bar one in fact, still finishing on the lead lap. Josh Harris, race 2, it's all ahead of us, and I reckon we're going to see a bit more of the same. Well, we appear to have lost Josh Harris. That's okay. We will keep moving on and see if we can get him back in the booth in just a moment. One of the joys, of course, of a commentary team that comes to you from all over the world, really, wherever we find ourselves on a Tuesday evening. And I know Josh is certainly not working from his usual comfy office at home. So we'll do our very best to stay on top of this for you tonight. If you're in there to chat, look, happy to hear a bit of your forecasts for this evening, your predictions for race number 2. Not so sure if I'll be listening to Dave Baldock this time around, and in fact that might just be the one you don't want a recommendation from if John Van Ree's start to the night is anything to go by. Of course, Team AJR though seems to be onto a pretty good thing, at least at this point. Dean Logsdale will be starting in 4th, so certainly an opportunity for him to bring home some more points. But as always, safety cars and pit stops are going to be what could well separate these drivers tonight, and we may just see again that pit strategy going out the window in the event of a safety car coming through. We wait now for the grid to be finalised. We've already seen the order, but let's take another look at it here before we get underway. Vanderkraan and Spriggs on the front row ahead of Stewart and Logsdale. Then McKnight and Cairns ahead of Varga and Caperonis. Gary Buckland and Jeff Thomas ahead of Andrew Hoffman and Steve Tonkin. We move further back, James Hardy and Daniel Sheriffs ahead of Viggar and Sattler, Power and Heusler ahead of Baxter and Stoyles, Schroeder and Sipple followed by Hayes and Latham, then Sipple and Fisher followed by Perrins and Walden, Todd Martin and Joseph Granshaw rounding out your 30 with Rob Baxter and Anita Buckland behind them, Dave Baldock and Dane Nothdurft ahead of Philip Marsh and John Van Ree. Lucas Burt will be starting from the back row for race 2, and thankfully Tim Nicol not getting a spot out on track in race 1. 32 laps, more time for him to potentially get some laps in that safety car. The 24/7 Sim Services Mustang GT3, of course, waits patiently for its opportunity to come out and be the star of a show, but we'll be sitting here and hoping that is not the case tonight. We've got plenty of good racing ahead of us. The drivers are getting gridded up here. We are just a minute away from getting underway once again. We'll go down to the line and just wait for these drivers to be ready to go. Hope you're enjoying the coverage here as well this evening, of course, on the Alliance Sim Racing channel, brought to you by Simple Racing Broadcasts. And a massive thank you, as always, to our major sponsors, Quantum Tint Solutions and AA West Automotive, who bring you the Alliance Sim Racing series every week in partnership with Nicol Photography and 24/7 Sim Services. So look, still a fair bit of racing to go tonight. We'll check in and see if we do have Josh Harris back.
I am here.
There we go. He's made it back into the booth.
Have to jump out of the commentary booth. I am so sorry, Jared. Unfortunately, technology doing me the absolute dirty there in the braking between race 1 and race 2, but I have had a stern chat to my internet provider, and hopefully I am back with you for the entirety of this next race.
We'll sort it all out as we go, I'm sure. The driver's just getting ready to start. We're into the last minute or so of gridding. Everyone on the grid with the exception of Dylan Sipple right now. So just about ready to go. Van der Kraan, keep your eyes on him as we get underway here in race 2. He did say to us he'll be looking to push pretty hard and stay out in front, make the most of this pole position. But all it's going to take is a great start from Spriggs or Stewart as we get to the lights. We're under starters orders now. 3, 2, 1. And we are away for race number 2. A fantastic start from Van der Kraan sees him off. Jim Caperonis not so lucky, getting passed by a couple of cars off the line, but Van der Kraan straight into turn 1. And we've got just chaos in the background. That is Damon Fisher, Troy Sipple, both having a crash off the line, and that's unfortunate for Fisher, who had an early incident in race 1 as well. Not the start to race 2 that he would have hoped for. We'll go back and we'll take a look at that shortly, but right now our driver's getting underway. We can see Jeff Thomas looking to make a move there behind Jeremy Dye, and that is Peter Baxter. Peter Baxter off into the dirt. Thankfully, not too much damage. Rejoining very, very cautiously there, I must say, at Atwood Curve as we make our way down the back straight for the first time. And the drivers all staying as clean as possible, but certainly seeing a higher level of aggression here in race 2, Josh.
Yeah, definitely. The guys are keen to get racing in this second race, and it's good to see them want to make those moves on lap 1. We all know that is when you get it done, it's good, in my opinion, to have hard racing. It's always a shame though when someone gets taken out. There is no doubt about that.
It looks like we may be, and we'll check in. The safety car looked like it was making its way out on track. There it is, of course. The safety car is on track this evening. So Matt Van der Kraan will be pulling up behind that GT3 very, very soon. And not at all... There we go, Van der Kraan going in to the pits. So unsurprisingly, we'll probably see just about the entire field diving for the pits here. Look at them all streaming in. I don't think we're actually going to see anybody not come in and make this first stop under safety car conditions. This is, look, not surprising, but have a look at the lineup in the pit bays.
It's very comedic to see, Jared, and I think the big thing now will be minimising any mistakes in finding your bay. I don't think that there's any doubt in the world that some of these guys will miss their bay ever so slightly, but we start to see the first of the cars rolling back out now. That is one stop done, and of course, under ASR rules, only one CPS able to be taken during each of the safety cars. So these guys are now done with that was Vigor and someone, I didn't pick up on who it was, but it was one of the other Angry Bird cars fighting to get to the control line. Nick Huisler that was. But back to my point, Jared, one CPS per safety car, so absolutely we won't see these guys back in, but what I think you're going to see now is a run through to that mid-race point before a pit with about 15-16 laps to go, and just try and halve this race from this point. So as we see Van der Kraan now starting to catch the safety car, Van der Kraan, Spriggs and Cairns have all managed to get into the pit and out, although Cairns has jumped a couple of spots during lap 1. Stephen Varga up a couple of spots during lap 1 as well. James Hardy has had a great first lap, up 6 spots, and of course, unfortunately, Matt Stoyles down 16 and Damon Fisher down 11. So I'm not sure exactly what happened to Damon off the start line, but what I do know was that incident appeared to put him into the pit straight wall and resulted in him having a car that was completely undrivable, Jared.
Let's go back and have a look at that and see just what happened to Damon Fisher. And it was a very early incident. Big contact. Troy Sipple looking to avoid the car in front. Actually, Damon Fisher, just unfortunate in that instance. I think nowhere to go, just pushed into the wall. Troy Sipple, of course, ending up well off track as well. But Fisher's car looking significantly damaged from that impact with the wall. In fact, the suspension on that side almost completely destroyed by the look of things. And that was followed up not long after. It did look like a Perrins and Marsh incident. No, sorry, that's just them reaching the back of the line and slowing down for that. So, yeah, poor old Damon Fisher. Not his night tonight. Sipple into the wall as well. But have a look at that rear right. Just absolutely destroyed that drive shaft. That rear right wheel is disconnected from the diff, and he is going nowhere as a result.
No, that's a big accident, Jared, and I'll be interested to see the stewards' take on that. Obviously, they'll have a bit more time than us and a few other camera angles to be able to have a bit of a look around. But that's a disappointing end for Fisher, and I think that by the time that he gets back in a supercar in a week's time, he is going to be a man that is going to breathe a huge sigh of relief if he manages to make it to the end of lap one with a car that is still facing the correct way on the racetrack.
Yeah, not exactly what he would have had in mind after all.
No, I think that is a fair way to put it, Jared. These guys don't like to face backwards at any time, but to do it lap one, 2 races in a row would be heartbreaking. You do now see the field completely under control of the safety car though, and hopefully we see that safety car in this lap. So I think that over the next couple of corners, we will see the safety car accelerate away and leave the field to their own devices. Hopefully we are back up and racing straight away, and these guys are able to immediately settle into a bit of a rhythm, as we do see a little bit of a gap now emerging. So I think that the safety car might have headed off and left the field under the control of Matt Vanderkram. Our point to go racing tonight, once the car is in pit lane, is turn 9. So we will of course wait for race control's call, but we are waiting out of the right-handed hairpin of Hobbs. Turn 9, the next corner. As soon as the safety car is in pit lane, any point from the apex of turn 9, Matt Vanderkram will be able to accelerate away, and it'll be interesting to see what games he plays. So the field now under his control, and he gets to decide when we go racing. As we see Spriggs close right back up, he wants to be as close as possible for this restart. He does not want to let Vanderkram get away at all, and Vanderkram waiting long before he decides to go. So he is still holding this field up. This is a long wait for the guys at the back.
Look at this. Look at him holding him up here. Oh, this is...
It's always so dangerous, Jared. Everyone at the back starts to get antsy to go, and before you know it, you see cars flaring out everywhere exactly like we have, and they have done a reasonably good job to manage that. But Vanderkram, for all of the games, has not been able to jump away. We've seen him reach the first corner at other tracks after a safety car, 1.5 seconds in front, and Spriggs has stayed with him just under a half of a second off the back of Vanderkram. So no doubt now Spriggs will be trying to not let Vanderkram get away. He'll be looking to stay in the slipstream here between turns 4 and 5, and work to make some moves over the rest of this race.
Yeah, really interesting approach from Vanderkram. He's just trying something a little bit different, keeping Spriggs and indeed the rest of the field guessing at what's to come. I don't think we've seen anyone so far in this series pull that field so close to the line before actually getting underway again. We haven't seen that many safety cars, to be fair, but that was a very, very late jump from Vanderkram, and he was really hoping he was going to get a bit more out of that, but perhaps just a couple of seconds too late, as we saw the entire field start to really spread out across that start-finish straight. Right now, though, we are back underway, all looking fairly clean and tidy. Nice spacing between a lot of these cars, but not a great deal of distance between anyone at any point throughout the field. You can see the intervals right up and down this pack looking pretty consistent at this stage, but we are really only just getting underway here. Into lap 5, 1:33.1 for Matt Vanderkrans. So despite holding off, still a reasonably quick lap. 1:33 flat for Spriggs behind him. And interestingly, we're actually seeing a couple of second pit stops coming in. So Northurft and Baxter are both into the pits there. I don't believe that's due to any damage. I am reasonably sure that is just them trying to knock over that second one. They're going to make a run for the line at the end.
That's a very, very long run, Jared. I'll be very interested to see how they go and whether they can make it or whether their tyres just completely fall off a cliff and we don't see them able to make it to the end.
Buckland looking for a line on the inside on Hardy. Not quite there this time around, but we know Gary Buckland's patient. He's quite happy to have a couple of cracks over a couple of corners and just keep that pressure on. James Hardy's going to have to really watch his tail here, or he's going to end up getting past in one of these hairpins. As we keep an eye on this battle here for P7, there's still plenty of racing going on right through the pack. We're going to try and bring it all to you as always, but trying to decide where to look after a safety car restart always keeps us on our toes, doesn't it, Josh?
It does. One of the ways, though, that I certainly cast my eye over this is starting to see those battle packs forming up, and there is no doubt as we watch this that Hardy is just starting to hold everybody up. I'll be interested to see as those laps are completed, the times that start to roll in as we see Michael Stewart set the fastest lap of the race now with a 32.1, with Hardy completing his lap in a 33.4. So every single car in front of James Hardy running a 32.4 or faster. So Hardy is a full second off the pace of the cars in front. And everybody behind him obviously a little bit held up and bunched up, but there is no doubt that Gary Buckland and Jamie McKnight are going to be incredibly keen to get in front of Hardy and start to try and bring some of that back. They will know that for every lap that they are behind, that the leaders are getting away, as we do see Buckland now throw it straight down the inside. Jamie McKnight thought about going with him, but unfortunately just couldn't get it pulled up in time, and Hardy was able to slam that door closed. But Buckland is now through. I think you'll see Buckland start to drive away. The challenge for Buckland now is, does he have the pace to drag the cars in front back to him, or does he simply need to settle for running around? Jamie McKnight wasting no time at all. Can he get this done? He does manage to get in front, and Dean Logsdale, I think it is, has tried to go through with him. Unfortunately for Jamie McKnight, the left-right turning combination has left him on the outside, with Logsdale now attempting to get the pass done. Jamie McKnight has done the very best that he can to get straight back into line, and he will set back about hunting James Hardy down, but that was a fantastic bit of racing and some great respect between all of the drivers to get that done too wide through a couple of different corners and not make any contact at all, Jared.
Yeah, I was just looking at that little pack and trying to figure out how on earth Dean Logsdale found himself in the middle of all of that. Unfortunately down 6 positions, and he did spend quite a long time in the pits, 55 seconds in pit lane, 20 seconds in the box. Which suggests to me he's taken on quite a bit of fuel, so perhaps planning a very, very minimal top-up in his second pit stop tonight. As we see a couple of black flags being handled out there, Phil Marsh and Lucas Burt both copying black flags, my goodness, tonight, as we see Jamie McKnight make the move. Some real door bumping going on there. James Hardy looks to reverse it and just runs it into the side of McKnight. Now, is Hardy going to redress this, or is he going to continue? Interesting one there. Look, maybe a racing incident, maybe something more in it. I don't have our usual race radio available this evening, but I suspect Jamie McKnight's probably called that one in, because that was an interesting little move.
Yeah, look, I have no doubt that'll be called in straight away. My opinion is that was a move that needed to be redressed there. You can't just get into the back corner of someone, unfortunately, and not make that redress. But it'll be interesting to see now how our stewards look at that. They may have some data available to them that shows that it wasn't anywhere near the problem that we thought it was. What I can tell you all of the guys continuing to set their fast laps, and Hardy another 35.3, so he's now nearly 2 seconds off the pace of the cars in front, no doubt affected by that clash with Jamie McKnight. But the Fishy Motorsports car is going to be absolutely desperate to get in front as he heads down towards the long Atwood curve. He'll think about making a move, but he will look to settle in, get that better drive out of this Atwood curve, and make another run down to turn 5. So we'll see him settle into the slipstream. Is he close enough, Jared? He's a long way back, and I'm not sure that he's going to be able to get this past done this lap.
No, not this lap, but he's just going to continue to keep the pressure on. You can see Hardy is nervous about this. He's sitting in a lot closer to the inside line there than what he really needed to, and I think he's just trying to warn McKnight off throwing any dive bombs up the inside there. McKnight, though, look, he's a smart driver. He's not going to throw it if there's not an opportunity for it. McKnight there looks for the overtake, just sticks the nose in. I don't know that he's actually trying to pass here so much as he's trying to force Hardy into overthinking it and getting a bit loose out of the corner, and that's what Jamie McKnight will be looking to pounce on if and when it happens. Further up in the field, though, we jump up here, take a look at Spriggs and Cairns. Cairns right on his tail, and this battle out in front. Vanderkraan just not managing to put the distance on Spriggs and Cairns here. The front 5 all still very much in touch with each other, all with quite a bit of pace this evening. We look at their best laps so far, and really 3rd, 4th, 5th our fastest tonight. Cairns with a 32.15, Varga a 32.16, and Stewart a 32.14. So it's not something I get to say very often, but it almost looks like Vanderkraan and Spriggs are actually holding these guys up at the moment.
I think you'll find that Vanderkraan, in particular, driving to a number, he has the clean air, he has the option to run, but Matt Vanderkraan is a very, very capable and very clever driver, and I think that you're just seeing someone here manage their pace, make sure that the tyres last. The old saying, Jared, is that it doesn't matter whether you win by an inch or a mile, winning's winning, and I really think that Matt Vanderkraan's taking that in his stride today. There's no point breaking out to a 5-second lead, cooking your tyres, and then potentially running into a safety car or any other of the complications. So Matt really here is, I think, driving to a number, making sure he makes it to the end. That's not to say that he's not still trying, but I think that he is just making sure that he drives that car really nice and really straight, and focuses more on putting in lots and lots of good laps and maybe less on wringing absolute peak speed out of it every single lap.
You're always so calm, cool and collected, Mr. Harris, when you talk about the driving approach here. Me, yeah, look, I'm looking for a bit of drama. That's all I'm looking for here. Vanderkraan still maintaining P1 quite comfortably. Damien Cairns continues to apply pressure to Jason Spriggs, and right behind them Michael Stewart and Stephen Varga are locked into it at the moment. These guys, they know it's early, it's only lap 10 of 32, so we're about a third of the way through, but no need to get into anything silly just yet. Still, of course, another pit stop to come, so these guys will be playing a strategy game at the moment. In terms of strategy, Rob Baxter, Dane Nothturf back in 30th and 31st have made their 2 stops. I do wonder if they're hoping to make it all the way from there. The tyres will certainly be up to it. The fuel will absolutely be there in the tank. It's just a question of whether they are going to be close enough by the time these guys get to the pits in whatever timeline they're thinking about it, whether that's going to be enough for Baxter and Nothturf to actually close in and maybe even end up with a crack at a podium.
Just calling out, Jared, that James Hardy, his last lap was a 36.9. So whilst we've been up the front focusing on Matt Vanderkraan and what he may or may not be doing in the way of race strategy, James Hardy has fallen a number of positions down the order, and I'm not sure whether someone got a pass on him and just beat him up for a while, and a number of cars came through, or whether there was a genuine mistake there from James. But we have now seen Jamie McKnight, Dean Logsdale, Steve Tonkin, and Caperonis all set free, and immediately we see Logsdale and Jamie McKnight set their fastest lap or laps of the race. So they have had the shackles released, and it will be interesting to see how they go chasing down the cars in front, or has the damage already been done. We see Longsdale is sitting well over a second off the back of Gary Buckland, so now is the time that he will have to really get his head down and see what he can do about reining that gap in.
Absolutely, a lot of work still to be done as we see Sheriff's going after Hayes just ahead of this little battle as well, and here they are side by side as we come down to the hairpin turn 5, a drive-through penalty for car number 17 there, which is of course Troy Sipple for the early contact with Damon Fisher 505. Not surprised to see that unfortunately for Sips tonight.
No, it's not surprising at all, really. It was an unfortunate incident off the start, but there is no doubt that unfortunately Mr. Sipple got it wrong in that instance, and he will now pay the ultimate penalty as far as racing is concerned, and serve his drive-through.
The battle out in front continues. Van der Kraan not shaking Spriggs or Cairns at all. In fact, they're sitting with him. So I think as much as I hate to admit it, I think you might be on the money. I don't think Van der Kraan's trying to extend at this stage. He is just sitting in and waiting to see what the rest of this race brings, looking for the opportunity for that safety car perhaps to bring about his second stop. Lap 12 now of 32. We're going to get through these very, very quickly because the pace is still high as we see Troy Sipple and Anita Buckland side by side down the main straight. Sips is up the inside. Anita Buckland will just tuck in behind here, I suspect, but it's what we kind of expected to see from tonight. The front straight presenting a great opportunity. James Hardy now under pressure from Rick Vigard. Vigard is back and forth all over the track, looking for an opportunity to get past, right into the back there of Hardy, not quite making contact but millimetres in it. Vigard wants to get moving, and Hardy, I think, just a little off the pace this evening.
Yeah, he is. There's no doubt that he's off the pace. I'm not sure what has happened this race, but unfortunately, James Hardy is really struggling this race, and he will do well to minimise the damage from this point on. I'm not sure whether he, maybe took a significant amount more fuel than everyone else, so his car's feeling a little bit more cumbersome to drive. But yeah, you're right, Jared. He's a long way off the pace. But no doubt he's going to do the very best he can, and these cars are probably some of the easiest on the service to run defensively and make it incredibly difficult for the people behind the pass. So that becomes a totally different race now for him, and it's all about making sure that those laps that he minimises the mistakes that he makes and runs defensive without just absolutely bleeding lap time. So it's a very fun challenge in these cars, and even if he is minimising going backwards, I think that he'll have a lot of fun setting himself some challenges and making sure that he doesn't fall too far down the order.
Let's go back as we see that is Gary Buckland just running off track there. We might go back. I think we might have a bit of an idea of where it started to go wrong for James Hardy. So let's go take a look at that for just a moment. And we can see here that Jamie McKnight gets through in first turn, and you can see up the inside there as well. Hardy finds himself just well out and off the pace. But keep an eye on these guys. It just streamed through at this stage. So Caparonis gets through. Hardy just finds himself well off the line through the S's, finds himself way out wide. A huge dive there from the 56 entry of Peter Sattler to get through as well, and then of course Andrew Hoffman getting through as well. So it's really demonstrative of just how much a single misstep can put you well off the pace in a supercar. And as much as they're very easy to defend in, if you're not in the right spot, you get off that racing line, it's very, very hard to defend or even to pull back in to the line, particularly when you're up against a group of drivers that is as widely talented as this particular bunch.
No, you're right, Jared, and it's such a fun part of the racetrack there in between turn 2 and 4 through the Moss S. It's a real rhythm part of the track, and as we saw there, as soon as someone's out of the rhythm, they can't maintain the speed. Oh, a big lock up there. That was a big lock up for. I can't quite tell. I can't think of number.
I actually thought it might have been big contact in the background. That is Peter Sattler into the wall. So it was Sattler that had the lock up initially, but it looks like there may be some damage on that car as things start to get ironed out again. Look, he's underway again, so we won't be seeing that safety car. But that's Rick Vigar as well has had an issue there. So let's go back and see if we can find out just what has happened. That's Rick Vigar making the pass on Peter Sattler to set that all off. Oh no, that's actually after the fact. That's pretty rough. It's actually James Hardy and Peter Sattler who came together just before that by the look of things. So Sattler on the outside, James Hardy, they come together. Hardy turns in and it's just enough to push that rear end of Sattler around, and then as he rejoins, taps Rick Vigar. Look, the Quantum and Angry Birds guys race hard alongside each other. I don't know that it was the Quantum plan tonight for Hardy to take out two of them in one move, but it's what's happened, and I suspect we'll be hearing about that one shortly, to say the least.
Yeah, at the very least, Jared, that rejoin, unfortunately, I think has a penalty written all over it. The initial incident coming out there of turn 5 is so easy to do. As you run down that hill, just that side-to-side contact can so easily result in a spin. I don't want to make any comment on that when I haven't had a chance to have a really good look at it, but certainly that rejoin a little bit disappointing to see. And of course, just to rub salt into the wound, 2 team cars being taken out by the same car is a devastating result. As it looks like Matt Vanderkraan has dived into the pits, so we are seeing that lap 16 pit strategy. So as I sort of predicted at the start of the night, Jared, as a potential strategy, pit at the end of lap 1 and then simply split the race in half. So we have seen Vanderkraan do an amazing job over the first half of this lap to really control the race, and I can assure you now that Damien Cairns and Stephen Varga will be absolutely pedal to the metal, trying to get around as fast as they possibly can. The undercut frequently has good outcomes or good repercussions in these supercars, so they will be doing everything that they can to get back to the pit lane as very fast as possible, and I would expect, Jared, to see at least Cairns and Varga and probably Stewart all in this lap.
Yeah, one would think so. Worth calling out Jason Spriggs making his second stop just a couple of laps ago as well. So they're currently sitting down here 21 down on his starting spot of P3. But with that second stop already in the bag, you got to have a look at where Matt Vanderkraan is by comparison. Spriggs certainly not looking particularly strong. P23 right now. Vanderkraan is back on track in P13. Cairns coming in, Michael Stewart coming in, Jeff Thomas coming in for their second stop. So we might see a bit of a cascade here of pit stops coming through. Matt Vanderkraan just jumping on it early and getting that done. He's come out well ahead of Dean Logsdale as well. P13 versus P19. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. Darren Walden, though, the Angry Birds driver, now under pressure from Spriggs, who on that fresher set of tyres has made the move through, look fairly easy in the end. They make their way around the Hobbs hairpin and look to set up for another lap. Coming into the end of lap 17 here, and you can see at the bottom of your screen just the pit stops continuing to roll through as everyone, after taking that early safety car pit stop, everyone trying to just make this second one at around that halfway point. It's not a lot of laps to try and get around on one of these sets of tyres for 16 laps, even somewhere like Okayama, is it, Josh?
No, it's not. And I think that the big call out, Matt Vanderkraan, is straight away up to 10th, and a considerable distance in front of Cairns and Logsdale and Stewart. I think that what you've seen there, potentially Matt Vanderkraan had the opportunity to race hard back to the pits at the start of the race, maybe came into the pits with more of a gap than we realised, and was able to put significantly more fuel in than those around him, and simply had to stop this race or this second pit stop for tyres. The other thing that Vanderkraan was able to do, whether it was by design or by luck, was he came out into fresh air, Jared, and as we were talking about just before, Hayes, I think it was, that made the earlier stop and was not making up the ground on Vanderkraan. I think what we saw there, Spriggs it was that we're talking about, all the way back in 21st, made the earliest of the stops and came out into traffic, so wasn't able to make the very best of those fresh tyres, as he was immediately having to fight with other people for positions. But straight away we see another lap around for Vanderkraan, and he has gone straight back to 6th. And it looks like Thomas may be the first person that's completed their pit stop, 4.5 seconds off the lead now. So Matt Vanderkraan has gone from what looks to be managing the pack to absolutely braining them and being a considerable distance down the road.
That said, though, Stephen Varga managed to sneak out of his second stop ahead there, so he actually finds himself just ahead of Vanderkraan here. And has his second stop done. His tyres are just a tad fresher, a couple of laps later than Vanderkraan. So a Varga and Vanderkraan race to the line is something we haven't seen for, I don't think we've seen that yet this season from memory. That's something that was certainly a hallmark of last season in the Gen 2 Supercars. But I don't know about you, Josh, I'm a little excited about the idea of a Varga Vanderkraan sprint finish.
No, I am too, and can I just say, what a fantastic move that Varga just pulled off up the back straight. Vanderkraan coming through on hot tyres was able to pass Varga there in between turn 3 and 4. Varga simply moved across the back of Vanderkraan, positioned his car on the inside and said, "I don't think so, sir. This was my position and I am taking it straight back." And of course, as we know, these supercar tyres are absolute demons on lap 1 and 2, so he's making the most of it. But I do expect that things will settle down in the next lap or so, and we'll start to get to see that battle emerge proper.
Absolutely. Damien Cairns making the most of his fresh set as well, as he charges back up through the rankings, back up into P7 now with 2 stops on board. Jeff Thomas up ahead has quite a nice bit of clean air to be playing around in right now. Currently P6, but realistically P3 on track. And look at the gap behind him. Damien Cairns just rounding the S-curves there is in 7th and effectively 4th at the moment. They both went into the pits at the same time. Thomas just getting a huge run out of it. And Jason Spriggs, unfortunately for him, caught in a bit of traffic just trying to make his way back through. He is a lot further down than he was probably hoping to be after his second stop. Down in 14th right now. This could have some pretty significant impacts on the championship standings if Spriggs can't make his way through a few more positions and close that gap to Vanderkraan.
It's a big call out, Jared, because the unfortunate thing about iRacing is that we don't have those pit crews and pit chiefs that are able to make those predictions on where we're going to come out. And if you get a little bit, if you get it a little bit wrong, Jared, you do really fall out into that traffic, and it just makes it such a challenging night. But Spriggs he'll be a man on a mission, and I've got no doubt that he'll make a few moves. But as you said, it's very, very tight at the top of the championship ladder, and it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds when the night's all finished.
Stephen Varga on that fresh set of tyres, a 32.11 for his last lap, the fastest of the race, and not surprising at all, as we see the fuel loads coming down a little and the fresh tyre set with more rubber laying down on track. The times are going to fall for the next couple of laps until these tyres start to bed in a little and perhaps lose a little bit of that early edge. But certainly make the most of it. Gary Buckland now is chasing down Rick Vigor and looking for a pass. Only a 10th between them as they come through the Moss S and down to Atwood. Buckland looking but not taking the leap right now. feels like he might have enough pace, and I'm sure he's about to set up for run heaping. Great drive out of Atwood Curve. Vigar carrying a bit of damage to the front. That's going to hurt his top speed here. Look at this difference come down. Buckland up the inside. 8 tenths, 7 tenths, hovering. Can he get on brakes later? He's on the inside of this one now. Can Vigar respond and reverse this on the other side? Doesn't have the drive out of the corner, and Buckland goes through in P10. Peter Sattler has just crashed. Peter Sattler has crashed in the background as well. Let's go back and check this out. Big dive up the inside of Atwood, makes contact, spins himself around, and hopefully can get it back underway. But P22 currently, and will be under some pressure as well, I am sure, from Spriggs in not too long at all.
Yeah, Jared, I think that move probably was a self-penalising one. So a huge dive, and probably one that wasn't really ever on. So fortunate to see, if one car had to spin, as much as we don't want to see anyone spin, probably fortunate to see that work out. And I don't think that we'll hear much more about that for the rest of the race. As we jump on board now with Stewart, then we really see these wonderful Moss-esque curves as we come down to Atwood, and he ranges up on the back of Logsdale. Slightly different line through the corner, which is very interesting to see, and immediately on the power. Was he able to get on the power sooner than Logsdale? Can he tuck into that slipstream? You will get to ride on board into one of the biggest braking zones in motorsport, as they are now, both hard on the brakes, with the nose up on the inside. Is that just enough to get that done? Holds it tight as we move down into this next downhill left-hander, missing the apex altogether. But as long as you've got Logsdale behind and not up the inside, it doesn't matter about missing that apex. That move has been done. That is a clean move, and I think that really did rely on a little bit of respect from Logsdale there. Saw that Stewart had the nose down the inside and did a really good job of making sure that neither of those two drivers came together. So a fantastic move by Stewart, but a bit of fantastic driving by both of them.
Almost good to see that the passing moves in this league, honestly, so clean every time, and it did. As a very amateur driver myself, it makes me think, God, I wonder what it takes to get to this sort of this level of just not just car control, but just calm approach to each of these passing moves. And honestly, it's just thousands of laps, isn't it?
Yeah, seat time. Confidence in the car, and the other thing that really helps is confidence in the people that you're racing against. So we know that a lot of these guys have been here and racing each other for a long time, and that means that they would all know what each other races like. I certainly know from my own racing, Jared, that when I get to race people that I know how they race, it's much more exciting for me, because I know what to expect. We love racing against people that we know and trust.
Absolutely, it makes all the difference when you get a bit of a feel for it. It's just not the same as public lobbies with iRacing, is it? You really you have to tiptoe around everything when you're racing public lobbies. When you're in a league with people that you've been racing with for, in the case of these guys, a number of them have been racing together for years. You can actually send the cars so much harder when you've got that sort of trust that actually everyone around you is going to do the same and is capable of the same. It's just a whole other level of racing.
It is, and I don't want to make this too much about me. We'll move on very quickly after this. But I raced last week, Jared, and I raced 15 laps in a row, very hard laps against one of my teammates. And whilst we won't talk about how it finished, what I will tell you is that by the end of that race, that we had 9 0x contacts in a row, and what that tells you, amongst other things, is that good hard racing between people who trust each other can be some of the most fun racing that you do, and these guys would be the same. All up and down this field, there would be people leaning on each other, bumping into each other, really trying to put on those moves. And from a driver's point of view, there's nothing more fun than a battle that lasts lap after lap after lap.
Absolutely. As we look on board right now with Daniel Sheriffs, and let's see if we can just get a bit of a lap around, because he's right in the middle of quite a bit of traffic here as we make our way around once again. And I'm not quite sure Yeah, where are we? P17, sorry. He's got power behind him. He's got Martin in front. But as you can see, again, all the debris here through Atwood, it's really limiting the lines that these guys are able to take as Sheriff drops a wheel onto the grass. Just looking either side of Martin for opportunities to perhaps take a dive here. He's late on brakes. He's going to go for it.
Big dive.
Oh, that was bold. He's made the right choice in pulling it up. That's absolutely going to put Todd Martin on notice, though, because that was certainly not a move I would have tried. Anyhow.
No, look, that was opportunistic at best, Jared, and bordering on crazy at worst. But fantastic driving by Sheriffs to take nothing away from him. The ability to get that car pulled up and not make a mistake when he realised that he wasn't going to be far enough down. And that's exactly the sort of racing that we want to see. How good to be on board with these guys when they really do try a few different things. And I think one thing that I've noticed on this lap is it's been incredible to see not only the different lines but the different strengths between Sheriffs and Martin. It definitely appears to me that Sheriffs is stronger into the corner, but maybe just the lines that he takes not quite as strong off the corner. So very little difference in lap time at the end of the day, but how they're achieving their lap time is very different.
Absolutely. Jason Spriggs, who just noticed, has dropped a fair way. Luke Allman's picked it up as well. It looks like he's actually had to make a third pit stop. And I suspect, although it doesn't appear that he's had a major incident, let's go back and see if we can catch just what's happened here as soon as we see if Rob Baxter can hold off Peter Latham, because Latham is deep on the inside as we come into hairpin. He set that up beautifully, and Baxter finds himself very, very wide. In fact, it looks as though Todd Martin is looking to make the same move, although around the outside is pretty ambitious. He's getting it done. A big moment for Sheriffs behind, manages to save it, keep it in a straight line. But this battle back here in around P15, a bit of a touch as well. Todd Martin getting a little anxious to get moving, and Baxter not quite ready to let him pass it just yet. As Baxter goes late on the brakes, that leaves him very wide, gives up the position to Sheriffs as well. And unfortunately, he's going to now have to hold off Spriggs, who we've just spoken about. He has run off track just a few moments ago. Let me see, though, just whether or not this has actually had anything to do with it. So Jason Spriggs here, you can see. Oh, that's what's done it. It's not come up as a major incident for him because he's kept his speed up. But that's definitely done damage, so he's had to go in and get that repaired. I did have a bit of an inkling that perhaps his third visit to the pits would have been a fast repair, which thankfully he's had up the sleeve. But sure enough, immediately after that, into the pits, and that's cost him another 42 seconds, which has left him all the way down in P18. So, look, he was making some moves for a while there, as we see Stewart getting the pass done on Logsdale around the final hairpin of this lap. But yeah, Spriggs is going to be hurting, perhaps a little more than he was expecting at the end of this race. And this is just going to keep that battle at the top of the championship tower looking interesting.
It will. I wouldn't be surprised if, unfortunately, Spriggs gives up his lead tonight. But he'll be doing everything he can. I've said it a couple of times now. 17th isn't horrific. He's got another 6 laps to make some moves. So hopefully he can grab Baxter in front reasonably quickly, and then he's got a bit over 1.3 seconds to chase down to Sheriffs in front. So we'll keep a bit of an eye on that battle and see how he goes. Jared, one thing to note, the battle out the front, Stephen Varga and Matt Vanderkraan, still 2.3 seconds between them, but what we did see was right from the very start, Stephen Varga bolted. We talked just after his pit stop about the fact that he'd run a 32.1, which remains the fastest lap of the race. I've been keeping a very close eye on the lap times of both Varga and Van der Kraan, and what we are now seeing is that Van der Kraan is completing lap times quicker than Varga. So I think that once again, Van der Kraan's doing a job. He's driving to a number, whether that be fuel or tyres. But what we are seeing is that Van der Kraan's lap times have stabilised, and Varga's are starting to get slower. It's at the moment, it's in the vicinity of somewhere between 1 and 3 tenths a lap that Van der Kraan's faster, but will that continue to fall off, and will Matt Van der Kraan be able to make a real run for it on the last couple of laps and maybe challenge for a win?
He's going to have to lift the pace significantly with only 6 laps, 5-6 laps left to go at this point. A few tenths a lap is not going to be enough to reel in a 2.5 second gap, so he's going to have to really decide whether he's going to commit to try and chase down P1 or if he accepts a P2 here a little more comfortably. It's not the Van der Kraan we know that would sit back and do that, though, so we'll keep an eye on it. But Varga's looking pretty solid at this stage, lap 27 of 32. He's not going to have to push particularly hard, but he is going to have to run mistake-free to hold off Matt Van der Kraan.
Yeah, he is, and of course Van der Kraan's got almost 7 seconds to Jeff Thomas behind him. So at the very least, I think Van der Kraan's going to be happy to bring home a second. It's a little bit of a consolidation race for him, and really a first and a second across the round is still fantastic points. And it could be that something's happened with Van der Kraan's car, and he's just not as comfortable at this circuit. We certainly didn't see him disappear up the road in the last race, but maybe he was just pushing a little bit too hard when he made that mistake in the first race, and he just wants to drive to a number and make sure that he absolutely doesn't make that mistake tonight, as we once again see him just over a tenth faster than Steven Varga. So certainly that time isn't rapidly diminishing, but he is consistently faster at the moment than Steven Varga.
Have a look at Michael Hayes and the pressure he's under from the Angry Birds racing team right now. Rick Vigor and Peter Sattler right on his tail and looking to snatch away an extra spot before the night is done. He's going to have to hold off both of those Angry Birds, and they are locked in behind him, lapping again about a half second quicker than Hayes is. And we might just see Vigor go for a move at the end of the straight here. It was going to be a big dive if he does put the move on, but matches the braking. With the damage to the front end, he's going to have a bit of compromised performance as well. But even so, Hayes goes very, very wide. Vigor's going to try and set up the run here as we come towards the S's. He's had to get on the brakes even further. Hayes just parks it at the apex. And look, some good defensive driving again, which we've seen over and over again in this league. I love to see it, and I learn a little bit something from it every time we watch this.
Yeah, it is. It's a fantastic display of driving from everyone here on how to drive, mostly clean and fast. But can I just say, for Vigor and Sattler, having both been taken out in the same incident, you want to see two blokes completely angry and driving together, take teammates out in the same corner and see what happens afterwards.
Absolutely. I'm just looking at that. Where is Todd Martin at the moment? Only a few spots up the road. He'd want to be watching that rear view, perhaps.
I think with 3 laps to go, I think he's far enough up the road. But yeah, look, if it was me, I definitely would be taking a wide berth of any car with a couple of Angry Birds on the front of it. I know that much.
I just noticed the last lap, Van der Kraan stepping it up, pulling 3 tenths and change out of Steven Varga on that one. It's still going to be a big ask with just a few laps to go, but he has lifted the pace. Varga's responding, still maintaining that gap at about 2 seconds, but Van der Kraan's going for it. I'm not surprised, but it's always good to hear that continues on. And we'll check in a little while. Further up the road, though, Peter Latham, Todd Martin, Spriggs and Sheriff's all getting amongst it right now. So these 4, and if you keep your eye on the background, here come the 2 Angry Birds as well, so not too much further behind them. So still plenty to battle for from P12 onwards. Peter Latham is just managing to hold off Martin, Spriggs and Sheriff's as they make their way down the back straight. I don't know that any of these guys have got a move left in them at this point. It's oldish tyres, you know, laps 15, 17, 19 around there for these guys. So it will be asking a lot of the tyres at this point to push too much harder. Just a couple of laps of fuel left as well. Have a look at the gap though falling for Steven Varga down to 1.5. Van der Kraan pushing hard. Has Varga dropped away here? Or, oh no, are we seeing this again? Is Varga running out of fuel? We've seen this happen before, where Varga's had to go into full fuel save mode, and right now, I think he might have done it again. Steven Varga, the gap down to 1 second. That car is not
all this
healthy.
lap, Jared. It's all this lap. So these guys were only a tenth apart last lap, and we've seen Matt Van der Kraan take a huge amount out this lap. If it is fuel, then there's not much that Varga can do, and he's pulled immediately over the inside. So that car is either completely out of fuel or limping home. He's still got 2 full laps to go. If he's in fuel conserve mode already this far, I'll be surprised if he can maintain that 8 seconds. And maybe he wouldn't have got there without a little bit of help. But what a strategy from Van der Kraan. If Van der Kraan is marginal on fuel as well, to drive to that number and be happy to watch Varga disappear into the distance, will just do him absolute wonders. As we see a lap time difference there of a 33.8 to a 37.0. So 5 seconds almost in that, and with Jeff Thomas only 7.5 seconds, not even 4.8 seconds behind. If Varga doesn't get a move on, he could lose 7, 8, 9 positions over the next couple of laps, because let's face it, the cars behind are going to start coming thick and fast once Thomas comes past.
I don't think Varga's got much of a choice here. We saw him top out at 170k an hour down the main straight, and look at this, he only barely cracked 200 there before coasting it all the way to turn 5 to hairpin. Varga is running dangerously low on fuel right now, and he's going to be doing everything he can just to make it to the end. At this stage, I don't think he's even thinking about P2 at this point, because here comes Thomas and Cairns right behind. Varga's got to make one more lap after this and somehow hold these two off. I don't think he can do it. I think he is just way too low on fuel at this stage. Let's go back on board and just watch this. Watch this fuel save here. Watch how early he's actually shifting. And in fact, he's not even accelerating at this point.
I just don't understand, Jared, how Varga let himself get so far into the race before he started to go fuel saving, because we saw him lapping at the exact same, we were talking about it, it was 1 2/10 of a second difference. As this lap he does a 39.6, so we are now out to a full 6 seconds slower than the cars around him. If he loses another 6 seconds this lap, he's going to be down in 7th or 8th position. And unfortunately, Varga has just left it way too late to fuel save. And now he's starting to really make a menace of himself and get in the way of the guys passing. And I understand
it. Hands behind him.
He may have chosen, Jared, I've seen people do it before, he may have chosen one incredibly slow lap to save maximum fuel and bring himself back to the cars behind and leave himself enough fuel to fight his way to the end. And there is no doubt that he is fighting this as he pushes Cairns all the way to the outside. But he's fighting his way home to get the second. It's a bold strategy to do 2 incredibly slow laps and just buy yourself a full lap of fuel to race as hard as you can. It is huge faith in yourself that you can make that happen, as we see Cairns have a huge oversteer moment. Varga's going to do this. He's going to hold it off. Matty Van der Kraan has crossed the line as our winner. He has pulled a 9-second gap, if you can believe it, Jared. But Varga, in an absolute driving masterstroke, has managed to do 2 laps into 39-second range, and has just completed a 36.3. He was significantly slower than Matt Vanderkram.
At the line, he's actually given it up to Cairns.
He has
Damien
6
Cairns has passed him.
1,000ths of a second.
Let's see if we can get a view of this, because that must have been close. Damien Cairns passing Stephen Varga. Let's go and take a look at this super slow motion here. Stephen Varga,
he's coughed.
He's
coughed. He's completely run out of fuel.
Can't get the drive there, and Cairns just nips him at the line. We're gonna have to go back and check the timing on that. I know what it's telling us on our end. We'll have to see what iRacing decides when the racing is all said and done. But there is nothing in that. It does look like Cairns has gotten through with half a tenth, and that's even
6/100ths of a second.
Even in that instance, geez, what a finish from Varga to drive so far off the pace and give himself just enough to get home there. That was pretty impressive.
Phenomenal.
But God, you've got to. Given it's not the first time we've seen this from Varga this season, where he's leaving himself so tight at the line. If he has to have a chat to us, I'm going to have to ask him about his fuel strategies, mate, because that is running super tight.
All I'll say is that a lot of people that like motorsport, Jared, they say that they're not into football or soccer or cricket because they are ball sports that only take one ball. And Varga has absolutely proven that that's not his style tonight. To drive 2 laps so far off the pace and then fight all the way to the end, he might have missed out by 6/100ths of a second at the end with a big cough just before the line. But a bold strategy, really threw it out there and attempted to absolutely minimise his damage. And considering where I was predicting him to be, what a fantastic way to finish this race.
Yeah, look, love a close finish. Can't argue with it. We'll bring Stephen Varga in just a second to come and have a chat to us. But the results at the end of the day, Matt Vanderkran taking the win by almost 10 seconds, confirmed that Damien Cairns has snuck through by 6/100ths of a second over Stephen Varga. If he had coughed one less time at the end, that probably would have gotten him there. Then Jeff Thomas in P4 just behind as well. Stuart Logsdale, McKnight behind them, ahead of Tonkin, Buckland and Caperonis, rounding out the top 10. Let's see if we can get Stephen Varga in to have a chat to us. Vargs, are you with us? Does look like he's not with us right now. He might have had to pop off and just shake the nerves off a little. We'll come back to him and have a chat in just a sec, but we'll bring Damien Cairns into the booth. Damien, mate, welcome back to the comms booth, and congrats on P2 in that second race.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised. I didn't was going to be close at the line when I could see him putting out of fuel, and just got him enough in time. In time, it was good. It was a great race. I enjoyed it.
We had to go back and take a look at the line there, because we were sure that Vargs had just managed to get it there. But as you say, that last couple of coughs, if he had just an extra couple 100 mils of fuel in there, I reckon he would have held you off. What a finish though, that last lap. Just how hard were you pushing? I saw you have a massive moment just coming out of Hobbs, I think it was, and to still reel him in was pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, I was pushing pretty hard and trying to get as close as I could to him, and then you've got people behind you, and so I was just lucky I managed to catch it and get enough behind him that he ran out of fuel and I was able to go past. But yeah, that was a good last lap. Poor old Travie got pushed out to the side, and I picked either Trav or Vargs, so I thought I'll go with Vargs, and it paid off and managed to get in front of Travis, and then got Vargs at the end, and that was a great race.
I cannot argue at all with a P2 result. Only 600th in it at the end, but mate, a wonderful finish for you, and congrats on P2. Just clutched away from him at the end there. Bloody well done.
Yes, thanks boys. Yeah, no, it was a great race and really enjoyed it.
Good stuff, Damien. Congrats on P2. We will we'll go now to Stephen Varga if we can grab him into the room. Vargs, have we got you there, mate?
Yeah, sorry, I did get a drink after that.
I thought you might have. I thought perhaps that you needed a drink just as much as your car needed one at the end of there, mate. Not quite the finish to your fuel strategy you were hoping for, I imagine.
No, I'm kicking myself. I didn't realise till 3 laps to go I only had enough for 2.5, if that, laps. I went, oh, crap.
Well, mate, to salvage a P3, because we were watching pretty closely as Van der Kraan all of a sudden started to reel you in very, very quickly, and we jumped on board for a little while there. And the fuel saving need was pretty apparent. You know, only hitting I think about 170 down the main straight at one point there. As someone who likes to go bloody fast, just how painful is it to have to do that to make it to the end?
Extremely.
Don't
I
like
wish I was
having to
fast,
top it out.
but look, I'll leave that to some other blokes. But no, I'm just happy to salvage a podium out of it all. I was looking forward to a win, but yeah, it wasn't to be.
How quickly did you realise just how much you're going to have to save? So I know you said 3 laps from the end you realise I've only got 2.5 laps of fuel, but the thing that I noticed, I was blown away that you could save what you did to give yourself a whole lap of racing at the end. So was that sort of the plan straight away? As soon as you realised that you were short, was it always give up all of that gap that you had to both Van der Kraan and then Cairns and Jeff Thomas behind you and try and fight that last lap, or was that just a bit of a a lucky coincidence that you managed to save enough fuel and get to fight for that podium position?
No, that was pure arse. I had my foot on the clutch as much as I could along the straights and thought, well, this is where I'm going to save it. And when they got right up my bumper and Damien had a little rub with me, I'm going to give his shit. If I run out, I run out. So I just went for it after that, and it just fell short.
Mate, talk about exciting. I sympathise with giving up a win for what turned out to be a 3rd place position, but in a reasonably long race and one that looked like a foregone conclusion. We can't thank you enough for putting on a hell of a spectacle at the end there.
No, thank you for the broadcast.
Vargs, look, consolation with P3. It's not the win you're hoping for, but still a good result, and keeps you in the hunt for the championship, mate. So despite how much you're probably kicking yourself right now, still well done. A bloody good drive, mate.
Yep, thank you very much.
Stephen Varga taking P3 there, and would you believe it, Matt Van der Kraan back again, and here to talk to us again about taking out the top step. How are you, Matt?
Good, mate. Happy to finally put a good race 2 together.
Look, it's you had a pretty consistent one. We saw you get that early pit under safety car, so I'm pretty sure you were happy to get that out of the way. And then the timing on your second stop was pretty much on the money. We were sure for a moment there that you weren't pulling enough back on Vargs each lap. We were kind of doing the maths on 1 or 2 tenths a lap with what was left, and then fortune struck for you, didn't it?
Yeah, mate, that was the same. Vargs was flying. There's a reason that bloke was season 1 champion. His race pace when he came out of that second stop was something else. So I was working my butt off to get him, and I wasn't taking enough out, and he pulled over, and I went, "Oh, someone hasn't got enough fuel."
Yeah, unfortunately. That's all it took in the end, and honestly makes that 10-second gap that you put on look a lot easier, and it certainly was, because we saw how hard you were fighting the whole way to try and stay in touch. Josh?
Yeah, Matt, it looked to me throughout that entire race like you were really driving to a number. We saw in that first stint you didn't really pull away from the guys behind, and then even in that lap after the same lap, and to me, I called out a couple of times during the broadcast that you were hitting a number that you wanted to hit, but you're saying that you were chasing him down hard. So were you genuinely off the pace of Vargs in that second race, or did you have a bit of a strategy that you needed to hit it to make it home?
Yeah, look, the mistake I made was hitting numbers early on when Vargs came out of the pits. A little bit fresher tyres. I expected him to get away from me a little bit. I didn't expect him to get 3 seconds down the road. So that's when I thought I'm going to have to start pushing harder. And of course, I mean, it's the beauty of these cars, and you're pushing harder. Your tyres are getting older. They're getting more wishy-washy. You're trying to push harder, and it's that fine line and that balance of trying to make up time, keep it on the track, and getting frustrated. You're not getting as close as you want to.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that it was a very interesting race throughout. Even if you weren't really pulling back those numbers, I took great pleasure in watching that strategy battle play out. But one other thing I've just got to ask about, less to do with you and more to do with your teammates. We saw two of your teammates taken out by the same car in the middle of that race. Just give us a bit of a look behind that fourth wall, and just tell us how much did the team voice chat explode in the middle of that race.
Yeah, fortunately for me, they got a bit chatty early and that, and I cannot drive with chat, so I'd muted them, so I didn't know what happened.
No, that's good to know, but there'll no doubt be a little bit of chatter going around in the Angry Birds Discord later on tonight. So I wish you all the very best in navigating that, and certainly pass on our thoughts to your teammates, because it was a wild couple of moments. But congratulations tonight again, mate. Winning both races. And some fantastic strategic driving. Absolutely well done, and what a result for your championship that you're putting together.
Yeah, thanks, mate. No, I certainly need. I was really focused tonight to get a good result, because I did a few numbers with 2 drop rounds, and I was a little further back than I wanted to be. So I needed to put in a good, solid result, and I'm stoked. In this field, to put your nose in front of a lot of these boys, very, very happy.
There you go. Well, we'll let you go and celebrate with the team, mate. A very, very good drive once again there in race 2, and we'll go and take a look at the championship standings now, see how it might pan out ahead of next week, mate. But we'll bump you on out of the broadcast booth so you don't get a preview of that, hey?
No worries, boys. Love your work, fellas. Great stuff.
Cheers, mate. A fantastic result there, absolutely, for Matt Vanderkraan. And let's take a look now, excuse me, at just how this could wash up. And of course, this is before drop rounds are considered. But sure enough, based on tonight's results, it could just be enough to push Vanderkraan to the top of the championship standings by a mere 8 points over Spriggs. So certainly, Jason Spriggs not having the race he would have wanted tonight, finishing 13th. In race 2 there, and that has cost him in the points overall this evening. Damien Cairns moving up one as well as Logsdale, Varga, Buckland, Tonkin, Sipple, Caperonis all moving up because Anthony Visma, of course, not actually racing tonight, if I'm not mistaken.
No Anthony Visma tonight.
So that will come into play when drop rounds are all taken out of that. So I expect you'll probably see him recover quite a few positions in amongst all of that. So this is very preliminary, of course, but it is worth a look, because it gives you a feel as we get to the end of the season and drop rounds are no longer a part of our calculations. This starts to get very, very accurate, doesn't it, Josh?
No, it does, and even if we do take those drop rounds into account. What this ladder tells us is that we have an incredibly close season of racing brewing up, and we only have a few weeks left to go, and those drop rounds are going to come into effect very soon, and we're really going to see a run to the flag at the end. And I think that it's brewing up nicely into a fantastic season. We've seen Vanderkraan have a bad round. Tonight we've seen Spriggs have a bad round, and then you've got a few other guys, Cairns and Logsdale and Varga, who may not be quite on the pace of a couple of the guys who are screaming around out the front, but just week after week after week, they're putting in those absolutely fantastic, round about that top 5 result, and we're seeing that consistency pay off. So it's going to be exciting for the next couple of weeks as we finish off this series, and see a very, very tight battle come out, and I don't think that you have any hope, Jared, of seeing a runaway winner. I am pretty darn confident that we are going down to the last race.
I tend to agree, and with only 4 rounds left to go, there's not a lot of time for these guys to make too much of an impact. We, of course, go next week to Snetterton for the 300, so that is going to be a long race indeed. But then we finish it out with Red Bull Ring on the 18th of February, Sandown on the 25th, and to close the season, Phillip Island on the 4th of March. We've got 4 more weeks of outstanding racing ahead of us. And Josh Harris, I hope that you're planning on joining me, because I don't know about you, I don't want to miss a single moment of it.
I will be here, absolutely, Jared. Come hell or high water, I am going to see this series out. These guys have absolutely got me hooked. I think I've said it every single week. I'm pretty sure that you've given me the best seat in the house, Jared, and I can't wait for the next couple of weeks. 300 kilometres around Snetterton next week. You probably couldn't pay me enough to put me in a supercar and do 300 k's around that joint. So I will be empathising with all of our drivers next week, and it's going to be incredibly exciting to see.
Well, make sure you do stay tuned. As always, Josh Harris, thank you for joining me here in the commentary booth. And from everyone at the Simple Racing broadcast team, we do hope you've enjoyed another night of racing from the Alliance Sim Racing of V8 Supercars series. Join us again next week for round 7 from Snetterton as we go 300 kilometres in the Gen 3 Supercars. And as always, a massive thank you to our series sponsors for making this all possible. Quantum Tint Solutions and AA West Automotive, headlining with Tim Nicol Photography and 24/7 Sim Services, providing all sorts of additional support to the series. Just 4 more rounds to go in this 10-round series. We've got 4 more weeks of racing until we crown a Season 3 champion. Please make sure you don't miss a moment of the action. Hit subscribe down below, and make sure you are ready for each and every race on Tuesday nights as we make our way towards the finish. Until then, thank you as always for joining us here tonight. We hope you've enjoyed the coverage, and we look forward to seeing you again next time. Until then, though, it is goodbye for now.